Where do we create the most impact when we're giving a speech or a presentation, or even just communicating in everyday life? Most people would probably say, oh, it's the words that you choose to say or how you choose to say them. But the truth is, the most impact we can make takes place in the moments between the words. Yes, the silences, the pauses, the moments we take is where we create the most impact. And in this episode, I want to show you why saying less is actually how we say more. If you don't know me, my name is Laurence. I am a public speaking coach, and I'm here today to help you improve your public speaking. And today we're going to do that by talking about how we can create more impact when we pause and slow down, than rather the ways we can improve our speaking and impact more via saying more things and trying to cram more into our presentations. So the most powerful moments in speaking are not in what we say, but in the moments in between those words. You think about it, if someone just rushes and reads a script word for word at a fast pace, you're going to be struggling to take in everything that speaker is saying to you. Instead, we want to be taking moments, pausing, slowing down, enjoying the journey, and allowing the audience to stay with us. The faster we go, the more likely it is that we are going to lose them in our presentation. We don't want that. Losing an audience is basically the complete opposite of what we're aiming for with public speaking. We're aiming to keep the audience on board. So we need to learn the effective art of pausing and pacing. Now, it's very counterintuitive for me to sit here and say that we need to say less and we're going to make the most impact when we're not actually speaking when we're on stage. But it is the truth. Not because we're not speaking, but because we're allowing time for the audience to keep up with us. I always like the analogy that we're like a moving train. And the audience, if we are moving too fast, can't jump on at the station. What happens when a train comes to a station? It stops. It pauses to allow the passengers to get on or get off. But we want our passengers to get on. We want them to stay on. The faster we go, the harder it is. They'll find it to get on board. So, when we are giving a speech, we need to allow for those moments where we are silent. We need to get comfortable with the silence. It's not always easy. It can be hard for us to be quiet, to stop talking. We want to fill the gap. A 3-second gap feels like a 30-second gap. It's a horrible experience to stand there not saying anything. But we need to get comfortable with the pause to allow the audience to keep up with us. How do we know that pauses really work? I mean, you might think, I know. But why do we know we really should work on our pauses? Well, have a think about the speech that Martin Luther King gave when he said, I have a dream. He didn't say, I had a dream and it is this. Let me get straight into it. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. No. I have a dream. Pause. Allow room for impact. That's what we want to do. We want to be strategic with how we use our pauses so that we can make the most impact on the audience. One of the best ways that we can help ourselves to give the time of a pause is to reframe it in our minds. We are not saying that we are stopping. We are allowing the audience time to digest what we've just said and be prepared for what we're saying next. The pause is not for us. The pause is for the audience. Let them have the moment. Let them have the time. The audience needs the time to digest what we've just said, to take it in, to mull it over. And if we're racing to the next point, moving on to the next topic, how will they ever remember what we've said? We've not given them a moment to swallow, as it were. So we have to take time. Let them have the time. And in our minds, tell your mind that the pause is for the audience. The pause is not for me. The pause is for the audience. But in fact, the pause is for us, because if you can't try to read a script or book or whatever it is, try to read it out loud and read it at a fast pace, you are more likely to get to a word and trip over it. Can't get it out right. The words come out wrong. You need that time as well. Pacing helps us as speakers to make sure we speak clearly with impact and clarity, rather than tripping over our own words and saying and If you feel like you say a lot, try slowing down a little bit. Give your brain time to process. Your brain is a bit like a computer. If you start speeding it up, putting too many things in, it will choke up and slow down. We need to slow down the things we're asking our brain to do and allow it to do what it does best, to find that information. So give your brain time, understanding that the time is good for the audience and it's good for you. So how do we do it then? How do we practice it so that when we get on stage and the pressure's on, we continue to talk at an effective pace, a controlled pace, and to use pauses and not panic about that dead air? Well, we're going to come to that in a moment with some really key tips. First of all, obviously, we're talking about something that we as speakers find hard. We find it hard to stop for a moment. So if you find that anxiety around public speaking is something you deal with, especially before a speech, but even during a speech, go to my website. The description down below has a link that will take you to a free video training, about 20 minutes long, which is going to show you 7 practical and effective steps to lower the anxiety you feel around public speaking. Go watch that training. Use it to help yourself, and that way you'll be able to lower your anxiety. Completely free. It's in the description below. Please go check it out and lower the anxiety you feel about public speaking in general, and now we'll get dived into the tips that will help you to control the pace. Okay, so how do we do it then? How do we practice it so that when we get on stage, we actually make sure we do pause and we do pace ourselves? Well, first of all, when we're practicing our presentation before we go to the venue, we have to practice it as if we were doing it a lot slower than we would actually do it. So practice your presentation 30% slower than you would actually give it on stage. Exaggerate your pauses. Make a 3-second pause count to 6. When we practice these moments, when we get on stage and start presenting, well, we're actually going to speak a lot faster than we did in our practice. We can't help it. It just, the pressure of the moments and anxieties and little things like this, nervousness, will make you speak faster. So we have to practice it slower. That's the first thing you can do. Really intentional, slow practice. Next, we need to practice putting in our notes areas to pause. Break up your notes more so they're more spaced out, so that you have a longer gap between the first point and the second point. Then, when you've made a key point and you're about to change topic, write in brackets, pause. Actors do this. They have direction on their scripts to remind them what they should be doing, not just the words they should be saying, but the motions they should be using, whether they should walk to stage left or whether they should gesture in the middle, whether they should look outraged. You can do the same. You can put in your notes prompts to remind you what you should do when. And the more you practice pacing, pausing, and actually using your notes to build it into your brain, the better the path is that you create for yourself. It's like going through the woods. If the woods has got a beaten down path, it's far easier to walk on than an overgrown hedge that you're trying to climb over all the debris and detritus that's on the floor of the woods. So you need to practice the same thing, walking through your speech, making the path in your mind, because then it creates neural connections and it becomes easier to recall what you're saying, and you'll automatically fall into the pattern that you've used before. So make sure you practice it. Make sure you put prompts in your notes for your practices, and so that you have them on you for when you're giving your speech in case there's a problem. And practice it slower, intentionally slower than you're actually giving it. The final tip for the best pausing and pacing is to start as you mean to go on. So before you open your mouth, take a deep breath and wait for 3 seconds before starting your presentation. Because if you start at that pace, you'll finish at the same pace. That's better than starting at a much faster pace and having to try to slow it down as you go, because then you sort of sound a bit weird. You started all really fast pace and now you're going slower. You're better to start at an even pace and maintain that pace all the way through. Pacing can be so important. It is where we make the most impact. Give your audience time to digest what you say and allow yourself time to make sure you don't trip over your own words. You'll find that it is so effective and allows time for your audience to be deeply impacted.